This is Scott Shetler, and welcome to this week's episode of Strength and Health TV. In this week's episode, we're going to talk with my good friend Jason Morris. Jason is one of my teammates on Plantbuilt, our team of vegan athletes with everybody from bodybuilders to powerlifters to CrossFit and kettlebell sport athletes, and Jason's one of the powerlifters. I've known Jason for a couple of years now, and I'm really excited to have him on the show this week. So Jason, why don't you start by telling everybody a little bit about yourself?
Well, my name is Jason. I live in Portland, Oregon. I am a strength coach and personal trainer. I also moonlight as a physical therapy aide at the moment. Been vegan for about 9 years. Gonna keep doing that for the rest of my life. And yeah, that's all that's really going on these days, powerlifting and work.
Nice. So let's start with you and getting into veganism. How long ago did you go vegan, and what were your reasons for going?
So I went vegan about 9 years ago. I started at the tail end of a huge weight loss journey. So I would say, yeah, it was health-based to begin with until I met some other vegans and learned a little bit more about the vegan lifestyle. And that was probably about a year into it at that point before I was friends with any other vegans. And from there, they taught me about consent in relation to other beings other than human beings, and that pulled me into the animal rights side of veganism, and I've just been going headstrong ever since.
What were there any challenges when you first made the decision to go vegan? Some people when they go vegan, they might start out following a vegetarian diet, or they might eventually start out by cutting out red meat and white meat, then eventually fish and dairy and eggs and stuff like that. And some people just dive right in and go totally plant-based. How did you transition, and did you find that were there any difficulties switching to that type of diet?
Well, so my first year, like I said, I didn't really have any vegan friends, but I did just jump into it. I just started going to the grocery store, just bought whole grains, legumes, vegetables, and tofu, and that's what I ate. And it's funny because at that time there were places like Food Fight, and I think Herbivore was open at that point, Sweet Pea Bakery, and Scapegoat Tattoo here in Portland. I just didn't know about them, and apparently I didn't know how to use Google 9 years ago either. But so I just, like I said, I just jumped into it, didn't eat meat, fish, dairy, whatever everybody's little excuses are. I just cut it all out. And I would say the hardest part was family events, like those social functions where there's nothing there. There's also the pressure of, somebody just made this food for you, et cetera, et cetera. But, just ended up sticking with it. Yeah.
So that's weird that you say there were issues, because you're in Portland, man. Isn't that like the vegan mecca, the vegan capital of the entire world?
Like it is, and it has been, and like I said, I just didn't know. I did not know.
Obviously, you know now, and everything seems to be going well. So one of the reasons that I'm excited to do this interview is, especially when you hear the V word come up in debates and stuff like that online. One of the things that you often hear is that in regards to vegan athletes, particularly strength athletes, bodybuilders, and things like that, a lot of people who are quote-unquote in the know like to say, well, such and such, yeah, he might be a vegan bodybuilder, he might be a vegan powerlifter, whatever. He built his muscle and his strength, eating an omnivorous diet, and then he transitioned into a vegan diet, and he's maintaining, blah, blah, blah. I mean, you hear this all the time. You hear this from people who have, PhD after their names. They're supposedly dietitians, nutrition specialists, bodybuilders and such. And I mean, I can find about 1 billion holes to poke in that. But the fact of the matter is a lot of our friends were already training, following an omnivorous diet and things like that. Now you went vegan and then you started training for powerlifting. Is that correct?
That's totally correct.
Okay, so you can't, so nobody can look at you and the results that you've made in such a short period of time and say, hey, he did that eating meat, and now he's eating plants and he's maintaining, which I think is ridiculous to say even for somebody who has done it that way. But you started out, what, about 2, 3 years ago or so with heavy training? I mean, tell us a little bit about you finding powerlifting, why powerlifting, how you got into it, how you started training, and then we'll talk a little bit about, the diet and how that relates to your training.
Yeah. So I started actually working out when I was 13. I'm 32 now. Um, and, that was just something to kind of keep me out of trouble. And I didn't really have any direction with it until I was probably in high school. And then I just lifted weights for football, but I didn't have a coach teaching me how, what, how often. Like, I just aimlessly wandered the gym, read some of the magazines that were out, but there was no specific focus, right? I would say I probably never squatted over 225 pounds, never really benched above 200 pounds, and I had never really deadlifted up until I was in my 20s. Um, and then I started training more like a bodybuilder, doing a lot of isolation movement. I should say I started training like a 1990s bodybuilder, doing
Okay.
a lot of isolation movement, et cetera, partial range reps, trying to target specific areas. And then I became a personal trainer just a little over 5 years ago. I'd already been vegan for a few years at that point, and that's like I started becoming friends with Robert Cheek, Ed Bauer, Giacomo, Danny from Vegan Proteins, and I was like, oh, it's a bodybuilder side, cool. So I'm gonna try that. I tried it a couple different times. I didn't make it to a competition, which sucks because there was definitely like long bouts on the bodybuilding training. And then each time I tried it, I got in some sort of injury not related to training, usually riding my bike, having a wreck. Um, and fast forward a little bit, I started working with Ed at PlantFit, and we taught more of like CrossFit at that time. And I wouldn't even say we were lifting really heavy then. Well, Ed was, not so much myself, just going through the motions of CrossFit. And then, like you said, about 2 years ago, started transferring into powerlifting training specifically. So the difference there is like, CrossFit, you're learning just a bunch of different movements. You're not mastering any of them specifically. And you're just gaining general strength and cardio capabilities, right? Um, then I think I was pretty influenced by Patrick from Germany, like watching him do that heavy yoke carry. Um, what else is he known for doing? Like specifically, I think maybe some log presses as well. I was like, I want to be strong. Like bodybuilding, that was a fun attempt. Now I just want to train for strength. Like not worry 24/7 about diet because that gets old. You piss off loved ones. So I just moved on. And then in that time, like I said, I wasn't squatting that heavy or benching or deadlifting. And, I would say in the last 2 years, my deadlift has gone from 330 pounds to 510 pounds. My squat, I got stuck under 275 2 years ago, like alone in the gym. It actually, I couldn't ditch it. I was at the bottom of my squat. I had to grab a hold of the squat rack and pull myself through it just so that the bar would roll off. And, I just hit 440 pounds a month ago on my squat. So, yeah, that's a journey that started when I was vegan for 7 years. And so I can't really say that there was a carryover from when I was omnivorous beforehand.
Yeah,
It's all that strength has been on a plant-based diet.
definitely. And I think just to get sidetracked really quick here, all those injuries that you experienced when you were training for bodybuilding, even though they weren't bodybuilding, related injuries.
Yeah.
I'm a firm believer that that was the universe telling you something, making some corrections, getting you away from bodybuilding and on the correct path, which was the path of the strength athlete. So obviously,
yeah.
it paid off, right?
Yeah.
But I know that those are some. Those are some really legitimate gains in such a short period of time in strength. And I know, I mean, every time I talk to you, your lifts are going up, you're getting stronger. You've only done a few meets so far, but each time, you're PRing and you're on the right track. So I'm excited to see, where this takes you in the future. Do you have any specific goals, with lifts that you're trying to hit, with totals that you're trying to hit, or anything?
Bench. So one of the areas that I've injured a couple times during those routes to bodybuilding has been the chest. I separated some cartilage and ribs there, and then did some shoulder damage. So bench has been my slowest lift to bring up, and I'm not sure why. So I'm going to be just happy if I break 300 pounds on that, which that's nothing to write home about in the sport of powerlifting. With squat, within the next 9 months, I'm hoping I squat over 500 pounds. It would be great to get up to 600, and a 600 to 700 pound deadlift are the minimums that I would like to hit before I lose direction on powerlifting at all. Before I worry more about body composition, I should say.
So there's no plans at cutting weight anytime soon, then?
I mean, I might eat better, but
So
you know,
when we say eating better, are we cutting back from a dozen donuts to a half a dozen donuts, or I mean, what's the plan there?
yeah, that would be good.
Nice, nice. We'll get into the donuts here in a minute. So no, that's awesome, man. Because I mean, it just shows that you've definitely got some long-term goals set, and I think that's one of the most important things, particularly in powerlifting. I mean, because the beauty of powerlifting is you can't there's not as much room for debate as there is in like bodybuilding. Bodybuilding is very subjective. You don't know what kind
Well,
of
it's
pack.
changed a lot too.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, yeah, tremendously over the years and stuff like that. But in powerlifting, you lift the weight or you don't lift the weight. I mean, obviously, there's room for some error and some calls or some, technicalities, a knee, this, that, and the other. But for the most part, the lifts are very well defined. You understand what your federation you're competing is
Yeah,
looking for, and you lift the weight or you don't. So
yeah.
it's very cut and dry, and having some goals is very important to the process, because obviously that's how you're going to build your training plan. So give us an overview. You don't need to get into like sets and reps and stuff like that. But what is what's your training week? Are you following a certain training split or a training program or methodology right now?
So right now, first I want to start off by saying anybody who does powerlifting, work with a coach. Anybody who does bodybuilding, work with a coach. If you're a personal trainer, work with a coach. Like, you need an objective opinion to get better at training. It's too
Absolutely.
easy to get into your own head.
Yep.
That being said, I work with a strength coach named Jaron out at Savage Strength and Conditioning in Tigard, Oregon. So right now we're just doing an off-season program uh, that kind of waves heavy loads, lighter loads the next week. Yeah. Squat day, bench day, deadlift day. Um, and then before that, I did 2 meets this summer, and there's probably about an 8-week ramp up for the last meet and a 12-week ramp up for the first meet at Beyond Fit,
So so you're basically
or
following
Naturally Fit Games. I'm sorry.
yeah, yeah, yeah. So you're following basically a squat bench deadlift type split, like a 3-day kind of classic powerlifting split.
Yeah.
Um, so you do the primary movement and then follow up with some supplementary movements, accessory movements, weight point work, that kind of stuff.
Yeah. So like this week, squat day. Uh, 6 weeks ago, we started at 60% of my max. One top set, as many reps as you can do. Every week since then on squat day, adding 10 to 15 pounds to the bar, as many reps as I can get. So I've gone from 285 up to 340, and just in rep out set
Right.
work on that, followed by pause squats, front squats, lunges, and straight leg deadlifts. And then on bench day, we've got a heavy bench week and then a light bench week. Kind of similar. First few movements are bench related, then getting into either shoulder work or some back work. And then deadlifts, treated fairly similarly to squats, where we've started at 60%, just adding weight to that bar every week, just repping it out, and then hitting some back work on that as well.
What's between the three lifts? What's your favorite of the three and why?
Man, I would say last year it was the deadlift. This year the squat and deadlift are kind of tied because I've seen them go up quite a bit. I also want to, like, about a year ago, I tore my left lat while squatting, and so I actually wasn't able to deadlift for a good 2.5 to 3 months. So I was able to squat, however. Um, and so I think that really helped excel my squat as well as just find a new passion for that.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think, a lot of people too, what I've seen is generally people that are good squatters usually are pretty good in the deadlift. I mean, because the movements utilize a lot of similar, muscles,
Yeah.
particularly if you're a closed stance squatter and a conventional deadlifter or a wide stance squatter, sumo deadlifter, you're building a lot of the same muscles. So oftentimes you see, those come up as well. I can't think of anybody except for people with really, really short arms who really love the bench press. And I've always maintained that the bench is just an opportunity to lie down, decompress your spine after squats and before deadlifts in the meet. So I know we don't talk a lot about the bench, but what would you say? Have you found one or two things that have really gotten your bench moving in the past? I mean, I know that's out of the three, that's been your toughest lift, but have you found anything that's really given you a good boost in your bench performance?
I would say working with a coach in person. So how I know I mentioned working with a coach before. Um, I worked with Chad Smith from Juggernaut for my first year and a half of training. Um, awesome opportunity. However, it was distance coaching, and while he kept telling me a lot of the same cues that Jaren helps me with, it's in person and like can be made automatically, or little nuances can be shown in person. So I would say that's helped a lot. Also, adding in things like pin presses from the bottom, stuff like that. I've done some slingshot work. I don't know that that's boosted like confidence or any specific strength work for me, other than getting used to the feeling of heavier weight after unracking and like just feeling comfortable with letting it down to my chest.
Sure. Yeah, I think that anything that gives you that type of overload, is good for the nervous system. So
Yeah,
even with people who lift raw, you see a lot of people starting to use the slingshots. You're seeing people even getting into loose bench press shirts, things that allow them to handle a little bit heavier weight. Reverse band presses work
yeah,
for some people. Board presses, things that get that heavy weight in your hand, conditions the nervous system, and you can probably testify this too. One of the biggest things with lifting a heavy weight is, particularly in a squat and a bench press, is that confidence. Getting
yeah,
under the weight, just feeling it bear down on you, and just knowing that you're going to go down and you're going to make the lift. It's a little different in a deadlift because the lift goes bad, you just drop it. But yeah, man, it's definitely there is a lot of benefit to getting that heavier weight in your hand occasionally. So that's cool.
yeah.
So we talked about training, talked a little bit about the nutrition and stuff. Let's get a little bit more into the nutrition because I know that there's a little bit of a difference, and we're probably going to have a little bit of fun here over the next couple of minutes. There's a little difference with the way bodybuilders eat and the way powerlifters eat, and you and I have experienced this firsthand and probably have hours and hours worth of material that we'll have to condense to a few cool key points. But what are you enjoying right now with the food and health? Let's start with this. What's your favorite healthy meal, and what's your favorite not so healthy meal?
Oh, healthy, huh? um, you know, there's really no vegetable that I'm not a fan of. So, whether it's just sautéing a bunch of mixed vegetables and serving it with something like Beyond Meat or tempeh or doing a huge salad, like, yes, powerlifters can eat salad too. Um, for at least one meal. Uh, so just stuff like that, I think the one thing with my bodybuilding stint was like just eat. Like, I don't worry about being creative with meals all the time. Like, I understood that food's fuel for my body, and I'm just gonna eat whatever's there. So like I said, usually a lot of vegetables, tempeh or Beyond Meat, something like that. Um, whole grains to a point. Usually, if I'm trying to keep it on the healthy side, I don't do more than like a half cup of whole grains or legumes. If that makes sense. Like, I'm not afraid of carbs. Nobody should be afraid of carbs, but you know, just keeping an eye on stuff. Not healthy stuff, the fun stuff. Fat and salt make things delicious. Well, I am in Portland, dude. um, there's Homegrown Smoker. There's Portobello Italian Restaurant. There's Blossoming Lotus. They actually have a lot of great food there that's healthy as well. A lot of raw food items. Um, then there's the vegan fast food stuff that's around, like Native Foods, Veggie Grill. There's that. I would say most of my meals when I eat out end up being at Whole Foods.
Whole Food.
If
Yeah,
I just average out the week, it's mostly at Whole Foods.
we've been there a couple of times.
Just a little bit,
just, yeah. So what about let's take a minute and let's talk about pizza. All right. So pizza created a really unique sort of bonding experience for you and I in 2014 at our first Plantbuilt meetup. And for those who haven't seen it yet, I'll have to find a way to link the pizza prank video that our friends at Strongest Hearts did, because it was basically, in a nutshell, you and I won Plantbuilt. I mean that's really about the only way you can say it. You and I basically won Plantbuilt that week. But why don't you go ahead and recap the pizza prank for us as you saw it.
All right, so this thing just kind of set up beautifully. Earlier the day of setting up the pizza prank, I made a drop-off delivery of some cookies to Giacomo and Christian, who are both Plant-Built bodybuilders. I left it at their front door and knocked and just walked away. And I got a text message that said, "Oh, we'll get you. You just wait." And I said, "I don't think you want to be threatening me, because this could get a lot more serious." Fast forward like an hour or two, you, myself, and I forget who else, were sitting on the pool deck at the Holiday Inn.
I think it was Crystal. Crystal was out there with us.
Yes, she was. And the words that came out of my mouth were, "I wish Giacomo would step out here right now. That way, I could ask him what his favorite meal would be and have it delivered to him the night before the bodybuilding show."
And literally, within a few minutes of saying that,
out comes Giacomo. So I'm sitting here lounging on the chair, and Giacomo comes up. He lays on his back, props his legs up in the air against the railing so he can drain like the lymph, so he can be a little bit more vascular or something like that. And so I cozy up next to him like, "What's this for?" And, whatever. Just putting on a front. And then while we're getting this on video, I say, "Hey, Giacomo, what is the one meal that you would eat right now if you could eat anything?" And then I think it came out of his mouth, "Pizza. A thick crust pizza with like vegan Canadian bacon, vegan sausage, all from Upton's, Dia mozzarella, Dia cheddar, and then slices of Dia on top." So I was like, "Cool."
and
Sounds delicious.
as this is going on, you're laying there next to him, acting like you're all interested in this draining the legs out or whatever, and I'm sitting over on the chair on the pool deck running my my cell phone video camera, and people will see this if they watch the edit that Strongest Hearts did, but at one point, he's about a third of the way through the description, man. You look up at me and give me the thumbs up, and you got this ear-to-ear shit-eating grin on your face. It's just like, man, the plan's coming to fruition. You looked so happy. It was great.
Oh, it was amazing, dude. I enjoyed it. And then, because I suck at surprises, I screwed it up.
Oh, yeah.
I accidentally texted Danny, Giacomo's now wife. Congratulations, by the way.
Yes, big congrats to the captains.
About dropping off this pizza to Giacomo. And then I didn't realize I texted her. And then like a few minutes later, I get this, "You are an evil, evil man."
I think there were other expletives, but that was essentially it.
But I was not deterred. I still made this work.
Dude, the realization, when you and I are standing in our room and you're like, you just stopped and you go, "Oh man, I just texted Danny." And I was like, "Texted her what?" And you're like, "I thought I was texting my friend in Portland. I'm texting Danny. I gave her the plan." I said, "You couldn't have given her the plan." So what happened, man?
So I just made it work. We did one of our usual Whole Foods runs, but we took Sasha and Matt from Strongest Hearts with us. I got the pizzas made.
Now, yeah, because we were talking to them and telling them how we screwed up the plan by texting Danny, and then we came up with Plan B, which ended up being better. What did Sasha and Matt kind of interject that allowed us to really pull this off, and even better, man. It couldn't have been better if we'd done it originally. I mean, this was better. It was better you screwed it up.
No, it worked out well. Sorry it's getting dark here, so getting a little mood lighting going on. So to continue it, I brought Sasha and Matt into the plan. So I said, "Hey, you guys, I know you have to meet with Giacomo later and finish up some interview with him. When you go do that, I need you to deliver 2 pizzas to him. Keep in mind, I only asked about what Giacomo wanted to eat, not 2 of them." So they were going to be the bearers of the wonderful pizza. So you and I beat them to Giacomo's room, just kind of play it off. And we go in like, we're going to make a truce with Giacomo. And Giacomo's like, "Yeah, sure, I'll make a truce." At some point, Giacomo had gone to the restroom to grab a little baby sock of his.
Baby being the operative word, yes.
Yes, baby sock of his. And he had hid this sock in his hand. This sock is covered in tan spray because this sock has been covering his most private parts while he got spray tanned. As we're shaking on the truce, Giacomo hands the sock off to Scott and thinks that he just pulled off this magnificent prank.
Yeah,
and you know, I'll give him credit. That was pretty good.
Well, here's the thing, though.
Better if there weren't 2 pizzas coming up to his room.
Well, that, and also, you would think that you would want to hand off the sock inside out, right? The side that was exposed to the junk, I got it right side. So it was weak.
It was fairly weak. And then suddenly there came a rapping of somebody gently tapping on their chamber door. And who else could it be besides Matt Rosigno and Sasha?
And then there was Strongest Hearts camera on, live, recording the entire thing.
And then, lo and behold, 2 pizzas
with
Upton's Canadian bacon, Upton's sausage, Diamant's, Diet Cheddar. Good to go.
That was absolutely priceless. And for viewers, you know, I'll try to find a way to link, but Strongest Hearts did a great job in recapping, editing together both the video from my cell phone as well as the video that Sasha took, and Matt's reaction, man. he looks like a kid on Christmas morning taking the pizzas in the elevator,
Yeah.
explaining the prank and all that stuff. But yeah, it was definitely a highlight. Again, you and I essentially won Plant Built with that. It was great, a fantastic bonding experience. The pizza was delicious. Kudos to
Oh,
Josh.
that pizza was amazing, dude.
Dude, those are great ingredients, man. The guys got taste. Let's bring this in for a landing real quick, man.
Yeah.
So we talked about some good things. We talked about your training. We talked about veganism. We talked about what powerlifters do to prove their superiority to bodybuilders.
Yeah.
And real quick,
Wait,
man,
speaking of veganism, I'm going to interrupt you really quick. I just wanted to give a shout out to some serious things going on in the Northwest Oregon and Washington area. So, No New Animal Labs is a new animal rights nonprofit group. It's trying to shut down a new animal lab up at University of Washington. Been really working hard the last few months to kind of get them stopped. This lab is getting started with over a dozen laws broken just to get the ground broken, like secret meetings by university officials, et cetera, et cetera. So if you guys get a chance, whoever watches this, go check out No New Animal Lab. Give them some support. We're trying to stop this. So, anyways, sorry for the interruption, but
no. Send me any links and stuff that you have, and I'll put them in the. I'll make sure that they're in the show notes or whatever. So whatever links. But that's kind of where I wanted to wrap up, man. I wanted to ask you, why is it important for people to, because when we look at veganism, on the activism side, unfortunately there's a lot of negativity around the word vegan, with a lot of the ways certain people go about trying to get the message across. I think their heart's in the right place, but they end up becoming a little bit too combative, too confrontational, and it kind of turns people off. And I was talking to a good friend of mine who's his name's Chris Gwynn. He's the Atlanta director for the Humane League for the Atlanta office down here. And one of the things that they've seen is a huge reduction in the number of animals, in the number of farmed animals that have been slaughtered for food over the last year.
yeah,
And one of the things is it's a lot of these meat reducers, as he calls them. It's people who are people who follow a regular omnivorous diet, but they're participating in things like Meatless Mondays or Vegan Before 6, or things where they're introducing more plant foods into their diet and reducing the amount of
yeah,
animal-based foods that they have. And I think that's fantastic. I think it's a big win. We're heading in the right direction. Obviously, it's not the ultimate end goal, but it's
sure.
moving things in the right direction. So why is it important for people to consider a plant-based lifestyle, a vegan lifestyle? Why is it important for them just to, as Dr. Garth Davis likes to say, don't make chicken the star of the plate. Make the vegetables the star of the plate. People to do things to start transitioning to a plant-based lifestyle. Why is it important that people consider that?
Well, I mean, if we're talking plant-based lifestyle, there is studies that show benefit of a plant-based lifestyle being healthier. As some dietitians, even vegan dietitians, will say, like, there are benefits from like the Mediterranean diet that can show very similar results to the plant-based diet. But I think the big thing is you're eating more vegetables, you're eating more fiber, you're getting more phytonutrients, vitamins and minerals, which a lot of people throughout the world are just short on. And these are things that are just essential as amino acids. So yeah, so I think that's a big thing. But then I don't know if you're segueing into being vegan, which is, and I said this on the Strongest Hearts documentary, it largely comes down to consent. You know, you are taking someone's child from them, you are raping an animal to impregnate it, to continue the cycle of eating an omnivorous diet. And really, like, because I have some strong feelings on privileged society versus not privileged society. There are native cultures where having a vegan diet isn't possible in certain parts of the globe. If you're in a first world country, there's really no way that you can't afford a vegan lifestyle. It can be done affordably, even on an impoverished budget, and it's gonna reap benefits for living animals, for the earth itself, just based off of carbon footprint and the amount of area that we use for growing food that's not an animal. You know, I could just keep going on that, but just to keep it a little short-winded, I'll stop there.
No, that's awesome, man. I mean, I think it's important, for people to understand, that it's not just health benefits, but it is, the benefits for animal welfare, the benefits for the environment, and there's so many things that switching to a vegan lifestyle, can benefit. And then, I think the important thing that people like you are showing is that you can do there's nothing that you can't do from an athletic standpoint, from a health standpoint. And so many people say, like you talked about, you live in a first world country. You live in an environment where we can go to Whole Foods and we can buy food. We can go to the grocery store, we can buy food. We know that you can get all the nutrients you need from a plant-based diet. You don't need to get those nutrients from animal-based foods. So if you know that, then why would you? I mean, it's why not? Why not eat the plants? Why not cut down on meat? Eventually, get it out of the diet. It's obvious you can be healthy. It's obvious you can be strong. It's obviously you can thrive as an athlete doing that. So I think it's awesome that there's people like you, that there's people like the rest of our teammates on Plantbuilt, that there's people like Patrick and Rich Roll and Brendan Brazier, Scott Jurek, all these great athletes who are out there leading the way and just showing firsthand.
Yeah. It's not just strength athletes, it's endurance athletes all over the place. So it's not like one area has an advantage over another.
Dude, NFL, strength, mixed martial arts, endurance, ultra endurance. They're showing, and these people they're not just like doing it; they're doing it really, really well. So it's entirely possible. There's enough research to back that it can be done. So I mean, there's no real valid argument, in my opinion, other than just being plain naive. I mean, that's the only thing that comes across to me when somebody's trying to convince me of why it can't be done. Yet there's people doing it.
Yeah, I mean, there's plenty of people who screw up an omnivorous diet on a regular basis. Eating properly, that can be done on a vegan diet. Like, it takes time to learn what to eat.
Exactly.
Take the time.
Exactly. I mean, people talk about iron deficiency. They talk about this, that, and the other. There are plenty of iron deficient omnivores. There's plenty of omnivores who are going to the doctor to get B12 shots. There's plenty, all these things that the vegan diet typically gets slammed about. There's omnivores who are having those issues too. So, I mean, that stuff's not exclusive. None of it's exclusive to the vegan diet as far as I'm concerned. So with a little bit of education, a little bit of application, anybody can do it. I'm an idiot, and I was able to do it. So if I can do it, I can do it. Plus, we got donuts now too. So, well, man, listen, I know you got to get into the gym and get training. I can't thank you enough. I totally wish we could have been doing this in person. It's kind of tough when I'm in Atlanta, you're in Portland, so that just leaves the question, when you moving to Atlanta, man?
I don't know, dude. When are you moving to Portland? I don't know. I definitely need to make a visit to Atlanta. Got a lot
we're gonna have to split the difference and move to Austin and open up our business like we originally planned, or have drivers there.
Exactly. We go to Austin. Maybe we should see if Louis wants to start a plant-based part of Westside Barbell, dude.
Yeah, I'm sure that'll Ohio. Yeah, I doubt it. Well, hey, man, listen, I know you got to hit the gym. Again, thanks a lot for doing this. Where do you want people to go find you online? Any social media, any website, any email? If somebody wants to contact you as a follow-up to the interview?
Yeah. If you want a website, jmorrisfitness.com. You can also email me through that website as well. There's always Facebook as well through that. So that that's just me as a personal trainer. Also, obviously, check out plantbuilt.com. That's the team that Scott and I are a part of. Check out Scott's site. I'll let him plug that. Anybody who's curious about training, being vegan, et cetera, feel free to hit me up. The more tools you have in your belt, the better you can become.
That's it, man. And I can vouch. Jason is the guy to talk to. Honored to call you my friend. Honored to call you my brother from another mother. Honored to call you my teammate. And I'm so happy that you're able to do this, man. Next time we do this, it's going to be in person, though.
Yeah, thanks, man. I appreciate that.
All right, man. Well, have a good night. Good training session, man. And I'll talk to you soon, buddy.
Yeah, later, Scott.